रहा है, तो इस बात का शदीद तकाजा है कि हम अमेरिका की बुलंदियों से ऐलान करें कि हमको अपनी ज़बान से उतनी ही मोहब्बत है जो पहले थी और अब भी है और आगे भी रहेगी। लेकिन ख़वातीन और हज़रात, मैं इसके साथ साथ ये भी जानता हूँ कि हम इस वक्त अमेरिका में हैं, तो और हमारी दूसरी नस्लें उर्दू से वाकिफ़ न हैं, इसलिए मैं चाहता हूँ कि मैं अब अंग्रेज़ी में बोलूँ। Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be here, and I want to commend and compliment Kaleem Khaja Sahab for organizing this important meeting, and I want to thank him for all the services he has done for the Ummah in India. 25 years of this organization is a tribute to the hard work that Brother Kaleem Khaja has done and his team. So I think it is a great deal of sacrifice that one has put in, and I think we must commend and compliment him for this wonderful effort. May Allah Ta'ala give him Jazaa khair. As Dr. Sheikh has said, my topic would be about American Muslim participation in US public life as well as what is happening in India. Thankfully, Dr. Hassanein has already given a historical background of Muslims in India, so he has already lightened my burden. So I would not go into what the state of Muslims in India is and why they are where they are today. And before I go further, I will do a commercial in the very American tradition of doing a commercial program. And here is my book, Khaki and Ethnic Violence in India. It's available $20. And I think you will get a picture of what is happening to Muslims in India's security forces, police, paramilitary, and the armed forces. It gives you an indication of where we are in India's drive to modernity. So, today in India, there are exactly 29 members of parliament out of 500. That itself is an indication of where we are. It ought to have been at least twice that number, because at the time of partition, India abolished the system of reservation for Muslims, but at the same time, it reserved seats for scheduled castes and tribes. That itself constitutes a grave injustice that India did. So I think while India is a democracy, and we greatly appreciate that India is a democracy, at the same time, I will tell you, brothers and sisters, it's a hollow shell. India's Muslims are one of the most oppressed groups in India today. Their economic condition has worsened to the point that their condition is worse than that of the scheduled castes and tribes. Yes, there are pockets of prosperity in parts of Western India, parts of Southern India, but the vast majority of Muslims, let us not forget, live in West Bengal, Bihar, and Uttar Pradesh. Fully 52% of Indian Muslims live in just 3 states, where their condition is worse. And let me tell you, it is not our fault. It is not in our DNA to remain backward. We want to be participant in India's drive toward modernity. But we are being held back, and I can give you chapter and verse and how it is done. Can you imagine a democracy? Do you imagine a democracy where pogroms are held? Do you imagine a democracy in the 21st century where Muslims were butchered, as in Gujarat? Can you imagine a democratically elected government saying, we will not protect you? This is what was told to our brothers and sisters in Gujarat. So let me tell you that the very first compliment that I want to give to India is that it is democracy. But it is a hollow shell. What kind of democracy it is when its citizens are killed? And today, when the judgment for Babri Masjid is going to be happening, let me tell you, when it was the case of Golden Temple, when there were armed Sikhs in Golden Temple, the army attacked Sikhism's holiest shrine. When it was in Kashmir, in Charar-e-Sharif, the Indian army struck. But when it was the case of Babri Masjid, there was military, there was paramilitary, but the Indian government did not protect it. So let me tell you, and I think we must not forget that India may be a democracy, but it is a majoritarian democracy. Just as in Israel, there is democracy for the Jewish majority and there is not democracy for the Palestinians. It is the similar case in India. There is no democracy for Muslims. Am I exaggerating? I am not. Can you imagine a democracy in which 12,000 mosques are under occupation? I have written chapter and verse about the occupation of mosques. Can you imagine that in India's national capital, mosques are not permitted just because some people don't like it? In America, so I want to come to now America. In America, where if some people objected to the building of a mosque, you have the president, you have the entire political leadership in America who is ranged behind a few bigoted people. You have the mayor of New York who is standing like a rock against bigotry and intolerance. We have the press in this country that is united in supporting Muslims. That is not the case in India. So I think while we want to be participants in India's democracy, India's Muslims as well as their supporters, whether it is the large number of secular Hindus, a large number of Sikhs, Indian Christians and various other groups, we are not going to be taking these things lying down. India's Muslims, along with their Hindu friends, along with their Christian friends, along with their friends everywhere, in every group, will fight unitedly against the injustices that are happening. Because injustices to Muslims means injustices to India, which means injustices to fully 15% of India's population. There is no doubt that India is a democracy, but you have to see of what quality. That is the important question. If India's ambassador was here, I am sure he will be reciting the Constitution of India. But let me tell you, no constitution in the world, not US Constitution, not American Constitution, not Indian Constitution, is not a self-enforcing document. You do need people, the parliament, the executive, various branches of the government to enforce that. So while we fully appreciate a democratic, secular constitution of India, but at the same time it requires that it be fully enforced. That is why what do India's Muslims want is nothing but the enforcement of India's constitution, and that is not happening. Do you know that at partition, India's armed forces were fully 36% Muslims, and today they are less than 2%. In India's police forces in various states, except for AP, everywhere else Muslims are a lot less than their population percentage. So the long and short of what I want to say is that India's democracy needs a lot of work for it to be truly a democracy. Unlike America, where there is complete internal peace, where there is full, complete, total law enforcement, India lacks that. In India, the lives of minorities, whether the Dalits, whether the Sikhs, whether Indian Christians, is not safe. Let me tell you what happened to the Christians in Kandhamal. There is a government that disallows conversion from one religion to the other. Do you know, as of today, in the state of Gujarat, you can convert from Islam and Christianity to Hinduism, but you cannot you cannot, let me repeat this, you cannot convert from Hinduism to Islam or Christianity. This is enforced by